Lord God, we thank you for the love and welcome of this family of God. We thank you, Lord, that when we come here, apart from the world, we find welcome, your welcome, from the presence of your Spirit in this place. I ask you, Lord God, to help each of us open our hearts and minds to your word today. I ask you to give me the words to say that will help the people here today. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Now, when the teaching team met to plan this series a few weeks ago, Taylor King, who's the pastor of Send Ministries for Grace, all the Grace campuses, she told the coolest story. She had just come back from Juarez on a mission team. And now, folks, Juarez is the desert in July. It was 105 in the shade. And these people get back to the airport, and when they get there, they find out their flight is going to be so delayed that they're not even going to make their connection in Atlanta. And there's not going to be another flight. They're going to spend the night in the Atlanta airport after 10 days or however long they've been in the desert. These kids are whooped. They're sunburned. They're tired. But listen, I'm going to read to you what Taylor wrote. Now, I know from time to time people mistakenly view mission as when you get on an airplane, go to some other country and culture, and love on the kids there for a week, then come back home and it's all over. Let me be clear. The day you decided to follow Jesus with your whole heart for your whole life was day number 1 of your mission trip. Our whole life as a follower of Jesus is just one big mission trip. Now, over and over again, I quote Tony Evans, Reverend Dr.
Aux input mode.
Is that me? Reverend Dr. Tony Evans said that you are the chosen ambassador of a conquering king on a temporary mission in a foreign land. You're the chosen ambassador of a conquering king on a temporary mission in a foreign land. This is our mission. We're here for a purpose. So the kids are consider this, these young people are going back and they're just dead beat. You can imagine what they feel like. And one of the team members said about this to us, that this is God's plan. God has something for us in Atlanta. You wait and see. God's going to show up. So about 9 hours later, they show up in Atlanta. They're dead beat, dehydrated, they're hungry, they're achy and tired. And they notice this young woman and her baby who'd been on the flight with them. Now, she was a Guatemalan. Now, she had missed her connecting flight to go to Virginia, where she was going to live with her parents. This young woman did not speak English. She had never been on a plane. She'd never left Central America. She didn't bring any money. She didn't know she was going to need it. Her parents were going to meet her. She had no cell phone. Did I say she didn't speak English? She didn't read English either. She had no idea her flight was canceled. She didn't know what to do. So here she is. Can you imagine? She's terrified. She's in a foreign land. She's got this baby. She's dehydrated. She's hungry. She has her child. She has no money, no way of contacting her family, not a clue how to reschedule that flight. Nothing. And if you've been to the Atlanta airport, that's a big place. That's still the busiest airport in the world. This is not the place to go for your first time if you can't read the signs. So, some of the members of the missionary team spoke Spanish. So they talked to her, and then they loaned her their resources of company, of love, of wisdom, of language, and some money and some food to this stranger who is in need, lost in this land. Folks, that's Christian hospitality. That's what it is. And so today, let's consider what God says, what the Bible teaches about Christian hospitality. Now, folks, this is going to hurt. Hospitality is more than offering your friends and family fried chicken, mashed potatoes, sweet tea, and pie. There's more there. It's more than even doing that for a stranger. There's more to it. It's not just being nice to folks. Pagans can be nice to folks. The writer of the book of Hebrews wrote to, guess who? First century Hebrew Christians who were having a hard time dealing with persecution and the things that were going on in their lives. The Romans were pretty oppressive. at that time, and the Jewish authorities weren't all that fond of what they're doing. So to protect their hearts from growing stale, from failing to continue to offer Christian hospitality in Jesus' upside-down, foot-washing kingdom, the writer of Hebrews wrote something. This was Donna's granny's, I think, favorite verse. She would have me read this to her. We talked about this over and over. And I want to ask you all to read this with me. Hebrews 13:2. Are you ready? Go. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by so doing, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. The Greek word that's used there is philoxenius. It's two words that don't go together. It's an oxymoron. Philo means brotherly love, and xenos means stranger. So this is showing the love you have for your brother to somebody you don't know. And in Jesus' topsy-turvy kingdom, what he's saying is Christ followers are to show brotherly love to people they don't even know. We're to show sisterly love to folks we just now met. Easy, right? Nothing to it. But here's the deal. Every single Hebrew person, Christ follower, who heard this message, who read this, was something to come to mind. Father Abraham. They're going to look back in Genesis. They're going to remember this story from Genesis 18 when Father Abraham has three strangers come up to his tent. And he sees them in his story. He runs to greet them. He bows down before them. He gives them something to wash their feet. He gives them a place to rest. Then he feeds them a banquet, a feast for these people. Then, when they're done, he escorts them down the road when they're ready to leave. That is exemplary acts of hospitality to three strangers who show up at this man's tent. But here's the kicker. Before that, what we know from the first two verses of that is this. The Lord appeared to Abraham near the trees of Mamre, where he was sitting at the entrance to his tent in the heat of the day. Abram looked up, and he saw three men standing nearby. Who appeared before Abraham? The Lord. Now, it's kind of confusing. When you read the text a little later, you can't tell, is this an angel? Was he one of the folks with God? Was this the angel of the Lord being referred to that way? But God's there. Very clearly, God is there. And God's appearance to Abraham is linked to just being hospitable to strangers. Just welcoming others. So, and Abraham welcomes God when he's welcoming three strangers. Is that hashtag mind block? Isn't that, I mean, kind of, isn't it? That's a strange thing. Could it be that the reason some of us lack the presence of God in our lives is because we're not being hospitable to strangers? Could that be true? I mean, biblical hospitality pushes us past rural niceties. It's not just to being nice to folk. It invites us into this zone of the unknown, where God likes to show up and he likes to show off in the lives of everyday folks when we just do the basic things that he asks for that are extraordinary in this world. And in the process of showing just hospitality, I think we provide something that this society, this generation, needs the most, a cure for the greatest affliction that besets society today. Loneliness. Just loneliness. When we just offer fellowship. Here's the deal, friends. When we practice hospitality to anybody, it's like we're doing it for God. Now, just like the story about Abraham should ring the bell for all those Hebrews, does that ring a bell for all you Christians? Well, here's this. Here's what Jesus said in Matthew 25, verse 40b. Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters, you did it for me. That ring a bell? Verily, verily, I say unto you, truly, truly. So, for the time that remains, let's answer this as our question for today. The teaching team settled on with you this. How do I become hospitable to the stranger? So, what I want us to do, let's dive into this story from the Gospel of Luke about the interchange Jesus had with this stranger named Zacchaeus from Luke chapter 19. Now, the teaching team noticed two deliberate things that Jesus did, intentionally, if you will, with this stranger to offer him and to show us what Christian fellowship would be like. So I'll tell you what, let's read the first five verses aloud together. Are you ready? Go. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. Okay, well, the first thing I want you to see, your first fill in the blank in your study notes is this. He first thinks that for radical Christian hospitality, Jesus notices and names the stranger. He notices and names the stranger. He says hi to him by name. Welcomes the person. He says hello to him. I think there's a pretty cool play on words here. Now, Zacchaeus is short in height. Man, he also sounds like he's short of a friend. You follow me? This guy's a tax collector. Like I was telling the kid, he's not a popular guy. He's trying to extort, trying to pressure all the money he can from the Hebrew people to give to his Roman overlords, and he gets to keep a chunk of it. And not only that, he gets the little figures from everything that the tax collectors he'd oversee get in there too. So this guy's rich, but he's alone. And his shortness of stature and his shortness on friendship literally has driven this guy up a tree. He's so alone in this. Now, and the irony is that he is a stranger in the midst of a crowd of his own people. You follow me now? Big crowd, he's a stranger up a tree by himself. What does Jesus do? Jesus notices Zacchaeus. Last week we said we had to practice wide-eyed compassion. Do you remember that? Like just wide-eyed compassion for people. Church, if we're going to join Jesus on mission to the world, we have to get our head out of the sand, open our eyes, and notice around us the strangers. Not just here in the sanctuary, but through life. We need to notice those people, and we need to name that stranger, understand who it is, and speak to that person. So Jesus not only notices Zacchaeus, but he calls him by name. You know what I bet? I bet old Zacchaeus has been called a lot of names. You know, a tax collector with some descriptors around it. What do you think? By the Jews. And I suspect the Roman overlords didn't exactly call him sir. Don't you suppose the Roman conquerors maybe called him Jewish scum? Or, you know, get out of the way, Hebrew dog, things like that? This guy had been called some name. How long do you suppose it had been since somebody just called him Zacchaeus? Not labeling for his actions. Hey, Zach. No, let's go to lunch. You know, there was a young girl at a church we attended who, we knew her regularly. Then we moved away. Well, we were back in that town fairly often, and every time we came back, when we walked in that church, that young girl, even as she grew up, would come and stand right in front of me and look up at me with a big smile and say, do you remember me? Do you know my name? And I'd say, yeah, I remember you. I remember your name. She wanted to be known. She wanted people to know who she was. She had a deep desire to be known. And it's not just her. I think it's all of us. We want to be known. Amen? The God we love and we serve knows every person on this planet. He knows your name. Not that he knows your nickname. And he knows what you call yourself when you're all alone. A youngster was trying to learn the Lord's Prayer. He was studying it, practicing it, or she was, whichever way you want to hear it. And finally thought it was ready. And then one day the church was meeting, and they began to pray the Lord's Prayer. And you hear this child's voice that kind of rising up above the others, proudly saying, Our Father who art in heaven, I know you know my name. The kid was right. The kid was right. And as followers of Jesus, if we're going to practice loving others, loving ourselves, loving the stranger with brotherly and sisterly love, we need to ask the Holy Spirit to help us name and know the stranger also. Last Sunday, I had lunch with our first-time visitors, Pam and Gary. they're not here today, but I have permission to tell, I asked when he was, you were my witness, Sam, right? You heard me ask by the they apparently had, in his career, he was working in the oil business, in the oil field, and he spent, I guess, all the summers in Alaska, north of Alaska. And they would be in villages, native villages, they were very primitive. And Pam said, you don't understand your culture until you've lived in a totally different one. Well, you remember that, the stuff you just take it basic for granted. You don't understand that's part of your culture until you go somewhere where they just don't do it that way. That's the first point. The second point, then, Gary told of being flown into a native village far north in Alaska. He gets there late in the afternoon. He gets off the transportation. He ain't any food. Nobody in the village speaks English. And they don't know there's any stores at all. So he goes in the place he's staying. When he opens the door the next morning to come out, there's half a caribou outside the door for him. They noticed and named that stranger. They saw he was in town, they understood the circumstance, and they brought him something to eat. The trouble was, he had no idea what to do with half a caribou. He's trying to get help. But the people saw him, that's the point. The second intentional act that we can emulate from this idea of Jesus being hospitable to strangers is this. Share life with the stranger. Share life with the stranger. That's your second fill in the blank. Share life. Let's read verses 5 through 7 together. Are you ready? Go. When Zacchaeus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, he is gone to be the guest of a sinner. Okay, so Jesus tells us there's a big honking crowd there. There's so many folks there that Zacchaeus can't see through them, he can't get around them, all he can do is go over them. Now, but in the midst of this crowd, Jesus saw and he named the stranger. And he begins to share life with the stranger. In the midst of his very busy ministry, he only allowed 3 years to save the world when he came to earth. Jesus found time to go up on the mountain to be with his Father to pray. He found time to associate with the people who needed him the most, the people of no reputation. And Jesus found time for little old Zacchaeus. Dallas Willard famously said, ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. Ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. Friends, hurry not only robs you of a rich, robust relationship with God, but with rich, robust relationships with others, with your family, with the family of God, even with your children. But if we limited busyness in our lives, if we just eliminated busyness, can you imagine the doors might open? The eyes God might give us to see others the way God might use us? Make no mistake. Our best resource for strangers isn't money. It's fellowship. It's relationship. It's ourselves. Life skills are great, but friendship and fellowship are essential. We are so unaware, I believe, of the value of this fellowship, of friendship, that these most important resources are very often inaccessible to those who want and need them the most. Let me speak this truth over you today. God didn't ask you to tweet. He's not asking you to post some politically or racially charged thing on Facebook either. God is asking you to go face to face, eye to eye, hand to hand with the people who need Christ the most. Just see them where they are. See who they are. Talk to them. Be with them. He wants you to do it the exact way, heart to heart, that he welcomed you. You understand? See, Jesus pursued you and welcomed you just that way when you were a sinner. Before you said thank you, 2,000 years ago, he sought you. He wooed you. And I want to ask you, will you inconvenience yourself? Will you pay attention? Will you be available for others? Create a margin in your life to welcome others. Will you examine your own heart for barriers to ways we can have connected to this radical hospitality? So, anyway, Zacchaeus becomes this victim of Christ's radical hospitality. And it transforms his life. But like most of the stories in the 4 biographies of Jesus, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, this one has a happy ending. But let's just say, in life, a lot of these interactions don't go happily ever after. Sometimes we get snubbed when we try to be hospitable to a stranger. Sometimes people take advantage of us. Sometimes we get used. We've been used at this church. But Tony Campolo, preacher and author Tony Campolo, says, if you have not been taken care of, or taken advantage of, by taking care of someone else, you don't care enough about people. If you haven't been taken advantage of, it's because you don't care enough about people. It's going to happen. It's just going to happen. So let's read together what verse 8 through 10 says. Are you ready? Go. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Jesus said to him, Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. Well, this is powerful, radical transformation in the life of this stranger. And the hospitality of a Christ follower can have amazing impact on the lives of people. Here, Zacchaeus makes an amends list, and he actually puts a price tag on it. These are half of everything I have, and 4 times anything I've stolen. He puts a price on it. I think that's pretty good for a guy who, it looks to me, the only reason why he says he chose a life of extreme financial gain over loyalty to his people. And this is a big transformation for him. Here's the deal. That kind of transformation can happen in our lives and in the lives of other people when we practice radical hospitality. When we truly are, let me be your neighbor. Oh, that's not, I don't have a t-shirt for you. When we truly ask if we can eat some of those neighbors. But please notice that he has received the greatest gift of all. He received more than he gave. He received salvation. And we're sometimes blessed far beyond the cost of our hospitality. Happens a lot. And the pineapple is a symbol of hospitality in the United States, other places too, especially if you're back east in the South. If you see that pineapple, I thought it was a magnolia blossom dead. It's a pineapple. And that came up as we were planning this lesson. I wondered why. So look, you know why? It's pretty easy once you hear it. In colonial America, pineapples were hard to come by. So if a guest came and you offered them a pineapple, you're giving the greatest gift you could give. Imagine in 1600 you get a pineapple somewhere in Virginia. That's a big deal. It's the best thing, the most sacrificial welcome that could be managed. My family was in Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl. And anybody else here, a family here during the Dust Bowl or someplace else in the Dust Bowl? Many times I've heard the story of what they did because people would come to visit. They kept, my family and all the sisters kept a can of tuna. That was the best they could do. They had a can of tuna fish to give to a visitor. Somebody showed up, they'd have something that they could get out and open and feed those people. That's what they had. That was radical hospitality during the Dust Bowl. George told of this week of traveling over the horribly dangerous road into central Cuba on a mission trip. The road was so bad, so dangerous, that the axle on the church fan building snapped in 2. So he gets to the village they're going to, they're hours late. It's about 9 o'clock at night, and the pastor, Pastor Ernesto, was there waiting for them with his congregation, waiting for them to come to town. And it seemed like the whole town was there too. And they were welcomed with, Bienvenido a Punta Fijo. And welcome to Punta Fijo. And then, after quick introductions, they're ushered into the small parsonage. They're seated around a table. And the pastor's wife, and some of the women of the village, begin to serve them a simple meal of chicken, beans, and rice. And as they're eating, and the chicken was small, and it was lean, and it was a little tough. But as they're eating, they learned it was one of the few chickens in the whole town. Those people had fed them the town chicken and sat down and watched them eat it with joy. That's radical hospitality. That's you. And we're often, like we said, we are blessed by our hospitality more than we receive. You hear me talk, I talk very often of my Uncle Leroy, my Aunt Isla. They were newlyweds in Dust Bowl, Oklahoma. They lived on a hill ranch land outside of Fairview, Oklahoma, and not that close to town either. And from the hill, they could see down into the valley, and there were not very many roads. There were dirt roads, but you could tell if somebody was coming to your house by the dust that kicked up. Well, one day, Aunt Isla and Uncle Roy had an argument. She was so mad that the next she decided, she said, that's it. She's done with this marriage. The next day, the Roy, I don't know if he was going to buy cattle or sell cattle, but he left. She packed her bag and started walking into town. Like I said, it's a long way. But as she's walking into town, I noticed dust coming up one of the roads in the valley, several miles off. She could see the dust cloud. And then she saw it went past one of the last roads that led to somebody else's place. But she's pretty sure they're coming to her place now. So quick as a flash, she hid that bag behind a bush. And then she ran across the fields, through the barbed wire fences. She got back to the house. She washed her hands and her face. She brushed her hair. She dried the sweat. She got out her can of tuna, and she made a tuna salad. And her guests came, and she welcomed the guests. And when they left, you know what? She wasn't mad anymore. She never did leave Uncle Leroy. Over the next 60-some years, they had a pretty successful marriage. Maybe, just maybe, her act of radical hospitality, to run sweating through the fields to get back home, to brush her hair, get the dust off of her, and fix those people, the best thing she had, maybe that saved her marriage. Just maybe. And here's the truth. I'm more comfortable being the host than the guest. I like being in charge. You probably have not noticed that. I don't think you laugh. But the guest is at the mercy of the host. The host controls what's going to happen. But you know, in the kingdom of God, we are first the guest. We are the very guest of Jesus Christ. And He's given us this incredible, this amazing, scandalous hospitality that He's given us. He's given us vulgar grace and indiscriminate compassion for us. The same measure for the guy that works hard all day as for the grin and drop that showed up at 5. Remember that parable? He's given it to us. And once we've been welcomed by Jesus Christ, He invites us to then in turn welcome others. We're supposed to become humble, grateful hosts for other people in His name. Friends, if you know Jesus Christ, if you've been welcomed into His life of grace, you're on a mission trip. This is it. You've received the undeserved, unmerited, unearned, but very welcome grace of God in your life. And your charge now is to turn and go out and gratitude provide that same thing to others. As we receive, so shall we give. Let's go out and love our neighbors, especially the ones we don't know. Amen? Amen. Let's pray. Oh, Lord our God, we bow down and we worship you. We thank you, Lord, for your blessings. We thank you for your grace that doesn't look at what we've done or who we are. It looks at us through the lens of your love and mercy. Oh, Christ Jesus, we thank you. We ask you to welcome us into your home. Help us to welcome you into ours and to welcome others as well. We ask these things, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. 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 Now,